The Jeddah GP is behind us, and from what we've been able to learn from it, Mercedes finally found some competitive pace in the W14. However, it's far from where they're supposed to be and where they're projecting themselves at the end of the season. And the fact that Russell finished 5 seconds behind Alonso just goes to show that the battle will definitely get interesting once the Silver Arrows understand what needs to be done in the design section of the car. But according to Hamilton, the car's performance just doesn't suit him at all, something that raised an array of questions that revolve around the setup of the car and Hamilton's future in the team. In Jeddah, Hamilton was able to finish P5 after qualifying P8, and it's definitely one of the worst qualifying processes for the Briton in his career. If we see the previous 2 years, he went out of Q1 in the exact same place last year and did have some troublesome qualifying sessions as well. But P8 is by far the standard that Hamilton pursues in the remainder of his career. The fact that he was also slower than Russell in the 2 qualifying sessions they had so far in Bahrain and Jeddah goes to show that Hamilton is still not 100% comfortable with the car, something that he and Wolff both acknowledged. It's not a secret that Hamilton has been publicly bashing the design of the Mercedes cars in the previous 2 seasons, especially last year in Miami, when rumours had it that Mercedes were willing to build 2 separate W13s in order to satisfy both Hamilton and Russell's needs in terms of performance. However, that didn't come out to be a true scenario, and after Mercedes decided to continue with the narrow side pod design in 2023 and even take it one step further, that's when Hamilton felt like enough is enough. But the team didn't have to wait too long to understand that they were in the wrong, and now that Hamilton has been in the right the entire time, there comes a question of what's going to happen with Mercedes' car and with Hamilton's future. Apart from the side pod design and the entire concept of the car, Hamilton doesn't feel very confident with another problem, one that was talked about at the Saudi GP weekend, as now Hamilton feels like the front end of the car is too strong. Previously, Mercedes suffered a lot with the rear end of the car, which is why the car was porpoising and bottoming out. To combat that, the team put more effort into making the car with a stronger front end, something that makes the car pointy and aggressive in the corners. However, according to Hamilton, the team exaggerated in the build of the W14, and now the car has too much of a front end, something that was definitely seen in the qualifying pace in Jeddah compared to Russell. If you put it on a scale, you'll see that Hamilton is taking the entrance of Turn 1 way too cautiously, and the entire first sector is where Russell is able to take advantage of the W14. This, according to Wolff, is a fundamental issue that doesn't go in Hamilton's way, and when talking about it, the 7-time world champion went on to add, "We're a long way down on downforce, so we've got to pick up the rear end downforce particularly. The more rear we gain, the more stable the rear becomes, and the more confident I'll be able to attack. But I think in general, just this car, even if we do that, there's a specific thing with something on the car that I've never had before. It's a position I've not had in previous years' cars. For me, it's the thing that's making me uncomfortable. I've just got to work hard to make sure it's changed." At this point, where Russell is able to be better than Hamilton in qualifying and in race pace in Jeddah, there comes a question of whether Hamilton has what it takes to lead the W14 to a championship, even if the team provides him and Russell with the same type of car. Obviously, Russell isn't particularly happy with the W14, as he went on to mention that the entire season will be won by no other car than the RB19. But now that he's showing to be a decent driver in a car that's proving to be too big of a challenge to handle, what comes next for Hamilton? Wolff has also confirmed that there's an underlying issue between Hamilton and the W14, and unfortunately it's not one that can be fixed overnight, because yet again it was a series of decisions that led to this outcome. Furthermore, the Austrian went on to add that the ultimate goal is to give Hamilton what he wants, and no matter how many sensors are in the car, the driver is the most important one to whom the team needs to listen. And when you have a 7-time world champion in your garage, you ought to listen to something he has to say. While Hamilton said that he doesn't have the confidence in the race and is doing the best he can with it, topping it off with not being connected to the 2023 Challenger of Mercedes at all, it's without doubt something that Mercedes needs to put their minds to if they want to keep Hamilton in the next couple of seasons. Although Hamilton is one of the most loyal drivers you can find on the grid, at 38 years of age, there aren't many chances that you'll receive to win the 8th record-breaking championship, and as of now, Mercedes aren't the best suitors out there. That's why the team is desperately working on solutions for the aerodynamic surfaces, with Wolff adding that the car is literally being turned upside down to find every bit of performance available. What's shocked many of the fans is the fact that Wolff admitted he wouldn't care if the W14's new design resembled the RB19, adding there's no shame in looking like someone who has already made it work. By this, the team eventually admitted that they'd been in the wrong for 1.5 years and that they'd lost a massive amount of data and development by not going for this concept once the technical regulations were implemented. And yet again, the setups of the car have been brought into question, with Hamilton and Russell running a different setup during the course of the last race. Even though the 7-time world champion was able to find more pace out of the W14 once the tyres got softer, he still wasn't able to catch up to his teammate, who kept the distance to Alonso at a formidable value. What doesn't seem to be completely clear to Hamilton is how did Russell manage to compete with that kind of setup, as it's usually the wrong one, and if he had it on his car, then he would have definitely done a lot worse than the young Briton. When talking about it, Hamilton was asked whether he and Russell have a say in the setup of the car, to which he said, "We work on that. There was like a 50-50 choice. I chose one way, he chose another. More often than not, where he went is the wrong one, but it just happened to work. So I could only match his pace rather than be quicker this weekend, but I'll work hard to make sure that we're in a better place." Time is slowly but surely running away with Hamilton, and the fact that he now has a teammate who's proven to be better at handling a troublesome car is definitely a huge challenge to overcome for the 7-time world champion. At this point, we couldn't help but wonder, what does the future hold for the 38-year-old? Wolff did admit that at this point he wouldn't have any issues with Hamilton walking away from the team because he's proven everything there is to prove, and he definitely needs to look everywhere before making his final decision. The time that it is rumoured that Hamilton will spend in Formula 1 is likely 1 or 2 more years, and as things stand, Mercedes wouldn't be able to build a competitive and championship-winning car in this short amount of time. We'd hate to wait until the new regulations hit in 2026 so that we'll have a competitive season yet again, but it seems like that would be the likely outcome of all things right now. However, Mercedes is the last team to just give up on hope, and by bringing back some familiar faces like James Allison, it's evident that the new concept of their car will definitely be one of the most anticipated projects in the near future. With that in mind, we're eager to see whether Hamilton will love the new design of the car and whether the newly looked W14 will be a car that he'd be able to conquer better than his teammate Russell. What are your thoughts on Hamilton's issue with the W14? Do you think it's something Mercedes will fix sooner rather than later? And do you think he'll continue his collaboration with Mercedes? Let us know in the comments below.